Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Bridging the Digital Divide. As usual, I am your host, Afoma Chieboka. You can call me Oma the Storyteller. And I am here with our usual guests, Celestine Eziokoye, the founder of Tellage Concept, owners of Blip School, who are bringing this program to you. You can actually take a free computer appreciation program today by going to our website on blip.school. That is blip.school. The program is absolutely free. I mean, it's something you can actually do right now on your phone. Hello, Celestine.
Hi, Afoma. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to talk about computers and everything that has relates to it.
Awesome. So today, last time we talked about how, what computers were and how we could use them. Now we're actually going to delve into some of the things that are even more relevant to us these days. You know that thing where it is that, you're walking down the streets, maybe main market, and then somebody just comes and brushes your trouser or something. Next thing you know, whoop, your phone is gone. Maybe if you're with another device, you start getting alerts that money is going and all that. The question here is, how do you secure your devices? How do you secure your phones? How do you secure your computers? We're exploring all of that today. And our topic is device security and how we can protect our devices. So, Celestine, let's go over to you. Why is this important? How can we have like a safer digital experience, with our phones?
All right. So I will start by actually talking about what device security is in general sense. So, device security is what you do to safeguard your personal information, your digital device, and basically your online identity, which includes your financial details, your bank account, and all of that. Right? Now, there are several dimensions of what you can do around those things, including managing passwords, right? Your PIN codes, your antivirus, and other things that you have on your both computers and your mobile device to make this happen. Now, why is this important, right? When you start to use the computer, or as you start to use the computer, you leave a lot of things called digital footprints behind.
Yeah.
Right? And these digital footprints includes where you buy things on the internet, right? Where you buy things on the POS, on the ATM, right? Include when you log into your Facebook account, right? It includes the messages you send on WhatsApp, right? It includes all of that. And these things are what forms what you are when you use a computer, and especially when you use a computer on the internet.
Okay.
Right? So having an understanding of how to manage these things so that they don't come back to cause issues unnecessarily, either when your device is stolen or lost, or when someone has access to it in terms of something called social engineering, right? You need to know how to protect that. So that is the crux of device security.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Because, some things that we take for granted, all these things that you mentioned, password protection, and even, viruses and all of those kind of stuff. These are things that we've heard of, but some of us just take for granted. So, speaking of that, let's even delve into viruses and malwares and all that. You know, we know that there are times that like, oh, I'll go to do printing somewhere, and then next thing I know, I'm giving somebody my USB, my flash drive, and then when I'm putting it back into my system, whoops, it's like it's all gone. All my all my data, you know, all my information is all gone and all that. So I've experienced it so many times, and then, you know, before I learned that lesson the hard way. We want our listeners not to learn the hard way, right?
Yes.
So let's discuss that a little bit more. Like, what are viruses? What are malwares? And then, like, even how can we protect ourselves from all of these things?
All right. So when you have a computer device, right? What runs your computer device, like we mentioned in the previous episode, is programs that have been written and executed. Now, just the way you can program a computer to do something you want it to do, someone can program a computer to do something that you don't want it to do, which also might include listening to what you say in the room, right? It can also include taking your keystrokes, which is what you're typing on your keyboard. That might include your passwords, and then sending it through the internet to another device. So these are things that can happen on your computer, and programs that are written to do those things are called malware, right? So that's the general word for it. Now, once a malware that replicates itself, right, is what is called a virus, right? So it just spreads, right? It's viral, right? So some malware just stays on the device and does the evil that it does on the device, right? But there are others that when you put a flash drive, just like you mentioned, you put a flash drive, it enters the flash drive. That is a virus.
Okay.
Yes. So now, how do you protect yourself from these things? A lot of computer software manufacturers, especially operating system manufacturers, have created things called antivirus and anti-malware software that works with your laptops, with your mobile phones, and other kind of device to prevent you when they see a program, when that antivirus see a program that it goes against the original instruction that is already on the computer, it alerts you or it takes it out, right? So it's important that when you have a computer, you secure it. So get an antivirus, right? Pay attention to where you enter your PIN code, right? Sometimes you go on a website that is not the website that you should actually go to, and then you enter your PIN, right? What are you doing? What are you doing? Sometimes the malware you are looking for is you that went to look for it. You understand?
Oh, some right? of those sites.
Yes.
Wink, wink. Okay, that's really interesting. It just even emphasizes how much we need to protect our devices. And I guess our devices even go beyond just even our phones and our laptops. ATM cards.
Yes, because your ATM also has, it has a chip on it.
Exactly. So it's computer. Yes. Beyond viruses and malware, I know that there are many other things that still affect our identity, our digital security. This one now, like online, right? That's where things like phishing and social engineering come in. So what is that? And then how can we safeguard our personal information when we go online?
All right. So I pointed a scenario where you are going to look for the malware, right?
Yes.
You are looking for the malware, right? And not the malware coming to you.
Yes.
Now, when you go on sites, for instance, when you're using the internet, and you go on sites that are not that are designed to be malicious, right? There are sites that has been set up to do something called phishing, right? Phishing is basically fetching your personal information, including your passwords, maybe your ATM PIN code, and your bank account information, all of that, right? And then using it to do something evil, malicious behind your back, right? Okay. Now, also, it's very similar to social engineering, but social engineering goes beyond just your financial or personal, go beyond your financial information into your personal information, including maybe your picture, including maybe your, all information about you, and then pretend to be you, right? Social engineering is deeper than phishing. It's like
Okay.
they engineer you. Like they sort of like understand.
Oh, so like an identity theft.
Exactly.
Okay.
Identity theft is social engineering. Right.
Okay.
So they take everything, understand everything about you, and replicate something similar to you. And then it seems like you are the one doing what you are doing. Right. So phishing can lead up to social engineering. Now, how do you secure yourself in these ways and these kind of things? I would say it's important that you pay attention to where you supply your data. Right.
Okay.
I've mentioned that before, but it cannot be overemphasized.
Very true.
A lot of people experience scenario where they just randomly start to get debit alerts. So a lot of people enter their information in malicious sites, malicious apps, right? For instance, if you have your bank details, be sure you're entering your information on your bank app.
Yeah.
Right? That you got from the official store of your mobile application. If you're using Android Play Store, if you're using Apple, iPhone, iOS store, right? Be sure you're using apps gotten from there. Right?
Okay.
Now, there are apps that can be distributed through other means where you download, for instance, an APK and then you use it. Sometimes those has been modified, right? It looks like your bank app, but it's not your bank app. Right? So only follow the official channels of these device manufacturers to get. Secondly, when you're on their website, right, a lot of sites has this HTTP and HTTPS security protocol.
Okay.
Right? So I think we'll talk more about that when we talk about internet, but it's important to note that HTTPS is secure HTTP.
Okay.
Right? And so when you are accessing this device, you see it like a padlock. Right?
Yes, that's very true.
Yes, it shows up like a padlock on the browser.
That's with HTTPS.
With HTTPS.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Without HTTPS, it just shows as a normal site. Right? You don't see the padlock. Now, when you see that padlock, it shows that it's the correct site that you are accessing. Right? And then thirdly, pay attention to the website URL. The website URL is the site name, www. Whatever it is, be sure that you are going to the correct site, right? The domain is the right domain for your whatever service you're trying to access.
Yeah.
Right? For instance, for Blip School, the domain is blip.school.
Yes.
Right? And then you see HTTPS, you see that padlock, blip.school. Right? So if you're going to your bank site, you want to be sure that you have HTTPS before you do anything.
So it's just like you don't want your bank, it can't be maybe the bank name dash something else, when ideally it should just be bankname.com.
Yes, that correct.
Makes sense. You are still listening to Bridging the Digital Divide, a program that exposes you to computers, its benefits, and the different ways that it makes our lives richer. Bridging the Digital Divide is brought to you by Blip School in partnership with RiseVest. Remember, you can take a computer appreciation program absolutely free today just by going to our website. That is blip.school. The program is free. Like a woof. Go and do it now. So now let's go into, our smartphones.
Yeah.
Now I know that there are many safety measures already that are on the smartphones, but oftentimes we find that, I know we've heard different stories about how, this app is listening to what we are saying. This app is monitoring what we are doing and all of that. So what practical tips can we use to secure our mobile devices? How can we maybe even manage app permissions and all of that? Just basically, how can we make sure that our phones are safe from potential threats?
All right. So, first and foremost, what is important is that you download apps from trusted stores, right? That is one of the most important things, right?
Okay.
When you're using an Android phone, for instance, you want to download from the Play Store. When you're using an iPhone, for instance, you want to download from the Apple Store, right?
Yeah.
That kills a lot of potential threats. Right, especially on the Android ecosystem, where you can sideload your apps. You can have an APK and load it on your device, right? Let only the professionals do that, right? If you are a regular user, focus on downloading the app from the proper store. Now, that will handle a lot of security on your phone. Secondly, when you have these apps already, it's very important that you decide how you want these apps to be able to access information on your phone. And that is where app permissions come in, right? You sometimes don't want some app to be able to know your location at all the time, right? If, for instance, you want to book a ride, right, using any of these ride-hailing solutions, right? You open up the app and they ask you for location. You want to maybe tell it to, at this time, I want to use the location now, right? Don't use it again, right? A lot of devices gives you the opportunity to allow it to use at the particular time when you need it, right? Not beyond the time, right? So that is also a very important step. So something also that I'd like to point out is that it's important that you add a PIN to your SIM card, especially for people who are using their devices for their bank transactions, right? Right? So that let's say perchance you lose your SIM card, your phone for any reason, right? And someone gets access to your phone. Once your SIM card is passworded, they won't be able to access that SIM card and perform transactions on your bank account, right? Using USSD, which is very common around us at the moment. So passwording your SIM, putting a PIN on your SIM is a very important step in protecting your device. Now, another thing again I would like to point out is that you should set up something called two-factor authentication, right? On your apps and your devices, right? If you have your banking app and they require that you do a two-factor authentication, you should definitely set that up. Right? What that means is that after you log in, right, it will either send you a text message to verify that you actually logged in and send you something called an OTP, which we've mentioned before, that you can now enter to verify that you are the one. So if you find yourself in a situation where your phone is stolen, right, and someone gains access to your account, somehow knows your password and logs in, right, they would still require that OTP to complete the process, right? Either it's sent as a text message or you use any of this, any app called an authenticator app, right? They will still require that to complete the process. So two-factor authentication helps you to prevent third-party intrusion to your devices, right? So yes, to recap that, you want to download app from the official stores, right? You want to put app permissions for apps that you already have, right? You want to set a PIN for your SIM cards, right? So that when your device is missing, you are able to retrieve that. Nobody is able to access your information. And then finally, for the apps that are important to you, right? You want to put two-factor authentication so that even when someone knows your password, they cannot get in without supplying an OTP.
Okay. All of this makes a lot of sense. And even as you mentioned it, I realized that we didn't even say what OTP was. So OTP means one-time password.
Yes, that's correct.
And it just basically applies only once, right?
Yes,
literally,
yes.
As the name implies.
Yes.
So once it is used, it becomes pretty much useless. And you mentioned earlier that it only lasts for like maybe 15 minutes or
20
seconds.
minutes. Yes.
Okay, minutes.
Yes.
Okay, so flowing from what you said about the two-factor authentication, I know it's one of the ways that we can use to guard our identity. But with as important as our digital identity is, like, I feel like there are other ways. I remember that there are times when you're signing up for something and then they ask you to create a password, and then you start seeing notifications like, oh, maybe this password is too weak.
Yes.
Or you've used this password before, and all of those kind of stuff. So what strategies can we actually use to protect our identity?
Yes. In talking in line of the password, it's important that you use strong passwords for your online services that you're signing up to. right? Aside from using strong passwords, try the best you can to use different passwords for different services, right? You don't want to use the same password that you have for your Facebook, for your bank app, right? Or use the same password for your bank app, for your Instagram.
Yeah.
You understand? So when you have all these service sharing the same password, that means if somebody gets the password, the person have accessed everything. They have your whole life. You understand what I mean?
Yes, very true.
Right?
Very
So
true.
I know it can be difficult to remember it, but I mean it's the sacrifice that comes with using online devices and protecting those devices, right? So I think it's something to pay attention to and to work with, right? Diversify your passwords and make them as strong as possible. Combine it, numbers, letters, digits, symbols, uppercase, capital, small. Combine it, right? It makes it a lot easier to work with your device.
Okay. And you also mentioned, if you can also elaborate a little bit on the two-factor authentication and how people can apply that.
Okay, so two-factor authentication means, I mean, as the name implies, the first is supply your password. The second is supply an OTP, right? So when you go to an app like Instagram, right, and they say, oh, set up two-factor authentication, it's so that it prevents somebody else from being able to log into your Instagram, even if they have your password.
Oh, okay.
Even if they have your password. Let's say, for instance, a hypothetical situation where you have an Instagram account. I say it belongs to a business and it's being managed by 3 people, right? And then one person no longer works with the business, right? And he has the password, but doesn't have the access to the OTP that will come in during the login process, right? And they no longer work with them, and they are malicious for whatever reason and want to put something else on the Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And they supply the passwords. They won't be able to access it because they will need an OTP, and they'll have to call the actual owner to supply that OTP, right? So it protects, not even if it's not stealing, but maybe just malice. Yeah. Right. So that is the best scenario that makes OTP work for solutions like that. It also applies to bank. There are bank app that also require you to have OTP. With a third-party app called an authenticator. There are several authenticators out there. Right? Maybe not SMS based.
Like tokens and all that.
Yes. So when you log into your bank app, your token, you press your token, you get a number. That is two-factor authentication.
Okay. Yes. And something that is important to mention, two-factor authentication, there are times that you may just come across it and it's written as 2FA. That 2 being 2, the number, and then FA. Yeah, so if you see 2FA anywhere, that is also two-factor authentication. I hope we've actually all learned like wonderful things from this, and we now know how to protect our identity and devices from malwares, from phishing, from people who basically want to take us down, and anybody who wants to steal our money. Exactly, from our enemies. So thank you once again for joining us on this episode where we talked about device security. In our next episode, we're going to be exploring the internet, and this is like where all the fun starts. So I really hope to see you there. Once again, I'm your host, Afoma M. Cheboka. You can call me Oma the Storyteller. And I am with Celestine Ezeokoye, who is the founder of Telage Concepts, owners of Blip School, who are bringing this program to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Celestine.
Pleasure.
See you on our next one. We hope that you've learned something, valuable and new about computers and the incredible potential that they hold on today's episode on Bridging the Digital Divide. As usual, you already know that it was brought to you by Blip School in partnership with RiseVest. Until next time, see you.